just waiting for it to come back to me to say we're on live, and I'll grab the link, post it in the issue, and then I'll pause it so that I don't get an echo. Okay. Just posting the link into the issue so that people who want to watch have that. Where are we? YouTube link. Okay, so welcome to the community committee meeting for February 23rd, I believe, or 22nd, sorry, February 22nd, 2018. We'll be following the regular agenda. So I'm just going to go over to the start, which is announcements. Does anybody have any announcements to share with the overall team?
We also have 2 attendees, Zibby Keaton and someone else.
2, you mean?
That need to be promoted.
That need to be promoted. Okay, so I will promote the panelists. The one phone-in caller, I don't seem to have a button to do that for.
That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Joe, let me promote as well there. Okay. Why don't I could make you host temporarily, so you could do that, or you could grab host, I think.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
I don't know if I can grab host.
Let's see. I'm going to the panelists. Is there a? Where is that? More. Make host. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say make co-host, because that seemed to be an option.
Yeah.
Okay. You should be co-host so you can promote people now. Awesome. Okay, so moving, I don't think anybody had any announcements, so let's move on to the tagged issues. The first one is in the Node.js repo. It's issue 292, titled Reaching Out to IRC Cloud. I think, Tierney, maybe you were the one who tagged that one?
Yeah, I was at the request of Miles, or not at the request of Miles, but like Miles and I briefly discussed it. Over last week, I had asked them on Twitter if it would be possible to engage with them for an open or a broader license. And so we just kind of have to go through the process of actually acquiring funding for that and talking to them about what funding we need.
I'm pretty sure somebody had reached out to them, because I remember a comment from them basically saying, a lot of their usage is open source teams, and so they can't really give discounts. So I
was told that, and then they also said that again to me when I reached out to them on Twitter, just last week.
Right.
But they're, for a group, I think it might have been, when I asked, it might have been taken as, hey, can we have this for free? And that's definitely not what we were looking for. We were just like, 500 people is kind of a lot to offer to. So if there's like a batch discount, that would be an interesting thing for us to be able to go percent.
Right, like a regular group discount they might give to anybody. Yeah, okay. So yeah, no, that's definitely worth pursuing. So you're gonna follow that up with them?
Yeah, so I should probably try to set up a discussion with them and Miles, just because I know he's kind of aware of it, and also, we talked about this. I talked about this briefly with Mark and a few other people, Mark Yinkle. So it's on the radar. We just have to kind of go through the due process of getting it all taken care of.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to what the number is, right? Like, exactly. I'm sure if we went to the foundation and said, it was 5,000 or 10,000, it would be much easier than $50 times
500, right?
500, right? Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah, and like that number is also, it's possible that number could change. Like we could go up to 1,000 members because of something we do to start engaging more people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like that's a good update. Anything more on that issue?
Not from me.
Anybody else have any questions or? Okay, so let's move on to the next one, which is the issues tagged under Node.js Community Committee. The next one is 234, meeting for reviewing membership guidelines. Just opening that one up.
That is me, I think.
Go.
So we had this on the agenda last time too. Maybe I just forgot to take it off. Like, if I can give any update, it's that that Ben actually created a doodle with which we can sort of try and coordinate a meeting time for this, which is nice. So that was created like yesterday, and there's only 3 participants that filled out the doodle. So all I can say is go visit the issue, go visit the doodle. If you're interested, like check your times or whatever.
Yep.
And I think after that, we can take it off for now.
Yeah, okay.
Until we get some results.
Okay, I did just remove it from the agenda.
Cool.
And I guess, okay, sounds good.
So that is actually a small point of process that I think we should probably try to do in the future now that this is an automated system. The thing is automated is just as if we decide that there's no further action, or we can remove labels as they're happening, as we're discussing them if they need to be. Just because we have a couple meetings with the new automated system, there's been like, oh yeah, we should probably remove that. So I think that's just a good kind of hygiene item to just have at the end of a discussion if we feel like it's wrapped up.
Yep, sounds good. It's nothing. It's doing it in the present is always better than trying to remember to do it later.
Yep.
Okay, the next one on the list is number 222, which is the current strategic initiatives review. So that one I'm just going to dig into the list.
That's me, I think.
Okay.
So there hasn't really been much of an update since the last meeting. I do think we should probably, I don't know if we need to do a separate meeting for this, but we do really need to it's probably good to have a broader discussion either in the issue or in a normal session of a ComCom to actually go through the ones that are proposed there, and discuss what we think we should do with them. Evangelism is one that's not as easy because it's its own working group. So we'd have to propose that to the evangelism working group, and have them ratify whatever, or have them kind of propose a suggestion to us. So, there's just some process that we have to do there, but we also should kind of try to see which initiatives we're interested in, reviewing and retiring possibly.
Sounds good. So, I might suggest even in this meeting, we could see how, once we're through all the other agenda items, how much time is left, and maybe there's, we could, if there's enough, we could try and go do some of that work.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so then let's back to that one at the end and move on to the next one, which is issue 212, issuing badges to contributors.
Yeah, I can certainly give an update on that. So since the last meeting, we've had some good movement on this. I posted a sizable comment on the original issue with a proposal for how to move forward. And since then, there's now a pull request open to add Node.js badges to the ComCom strategic initiatives list. And we have a dedicated repo open at Node.js/badges with a pull request open to commit the initial repo, commit the license, and yeah, so we're moving forward swimmingly on that. I'd like to use this as a time to call for anybody interested in helping to continue push this forward, to open issues in the repo, to contribute back to the project and start laying some of the infrastructure here. Please comment on the PR for the initial README. There are only 2 of us on there right now. Would love to see some more community support in getting this thing to take off.
One question I'd have is, do we have like a first badge to sort of test out the process?
So I was waiting until after this meeting and after I make one more call for volunteers, team members, to merge in that initial README PR. And then I was going to start an issue to start collecting ideas for the first batch of badges. We don't have a first badge to start designing.
I would actually like to suggest that we follow the hexagon sticker pattern, just because then they can kind of go between badges and stickers, and like it can be a way to physically also show it. And so there's it's kind of like a nebulous thing that people have domain knowledge on, but there's also this specification, sticker constructor specification by Terrence Stock, I believe his last name is, who, it has a very specific outline of what, like the size and shape of the sticker, or what the logo, so in this case it would be a badge. And I think we can base it off of that. And then there's also quite a bit of prior work from Node School. I don't have the link to that off the top of my I don't have it handy.
I have it open in a tab in my browser right now. It's a good resource.
So they have a very fantastic resource, and I don't think it'd be bad if we kind of asked if we could copy it, or if it was MIT, if we use it as a baseline.
Yeah, that's kind of my intent for the first round of badges. I don't want us to do just a bunch of one-offs. I mentioned in the comment on the original issue, would love for this to the first round of badges to come out with illustration guidelines and badge guidelines for Node.js as an organization, and come out with a resource like Node Schools, or like the initial template that Mozilla Foundation offers for open badges, so that we can keep a consistent look and feel and a consistent branding as we keep launching badges and stickers for Node.js.
Yeah, and I have a feeling there may need to be some sort of review and okay process, because I know when we discussed it in the build working group, the one concern was, like, if we're going to use the Node.js logo or graphics, which I suspect a lot of people will want to do, we need at least some sort of okay from the foundation who owns that.
Definitely. Part of the first batch of badges will also be coming up with, I'm imagining kind of an RFC process for when you want to add a new badge to the collection. You fill out a pretty standard template describing what its intent is, what its use is, what the criteria are for awarding it, and then still TBD is that design process and the approval we need from Node. But the hope is to get something standardized.
Yeah, awesome.
Sounds good. So I guess one question is, do we need to keep this on the community committee agenda, or should we take it off and put it back on if we need more input from this group?
I don't believe it needs to stay on as a recurring agenda item. I can certainly add specific issues that are flagged in the repo if they need discussion at this larger meeting.
With that, does it need to be added as an initiative?
I would think that until it's up and running, it certainly fits as a strategic initiative to me.
Okay. Yeah, so we should probably mark that as a to-do to PR that in.
There's a PR open.
Okay, cool. And I don't know if we have a ComCom member as a champion, but I believe, Adam, I have to go through and review it, but you've probably hit the attendance for observership to move to member. I will have to go in and review it. But if you would be willing to open a PR to add yourself in, because I'm going to be out of office for like 5 days now. If you could open a PR to add yourself, that'd be great. I think Dan has a good example of doing that for himself. So that's in the closed PRs, and you can just kind of follow that same template that anyone has done. So
will do.
Awesome. I will follow up with you and actually tell you if you've hit that minimum attendance, though. I have to go do some digging, and I can do that part.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so any more comments, discussion on that before we move on to the next issue? No? Okay, the next issue is 117, explaining inclusivity better. I'm going to open that up. If anybody wants to jump in as leading that discussion, just go ahead.
Olivia, it's going to be you or me on that one.
Yeah, I'm not actually quite sure where you stand on this. Like if you look at the issue, the bottom like fifth is basically taken up by something that's not relevant to the discussion. But I think right now where we stand is either we have someone who dedicates the time to write up a document explaining what exactly our values mean in context of, basically giving a more detailed description of what we mean by increasing diversity and inclusivity. That's what I would assume. Can anyone correct me on where we stand on this?
I think you are correct.
Okay.
And I think the issue is that nobody has raised their hand. It's not that we don't want to or don't have a desire to.
Yeah.
It's that we do have a desire to. We don't have the time. There's an individual who has taken that on. And I'd also be concerned with that just being unchecked by people who are from underrepresented minorities. So that would be definite criteria if it were to be done.
So I've been thinking about this, and I think I'm gonna actually dedicate some time to writing that.
Okay. Cool.
I'm gonna try at least. We'll see how it goes.
So I'm going to say this was discussed in the last CC meeting. Olivia volunteered to spend some time on it. And does it make sense to remove it from the agenda until you've had that time, and then you can bring it back on when it's ready to be discussed?
I believe so.
Okay. So I will do that. I added that comment, and I'm going to remove it from the agenda. Cool. Okay, I think then that's the end of the items that were on the agenda. So that would let us loop back to.
Let me just do an intervention because we forgot our check-in with the strategic initiatives.
Okay. Thanks.
Not from my side, not from the website redesign thing. We're pretty much on track and don't have anything to report. If Dan has anything with user feedback.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Louis. So yesterday we had we've had a couple firsts since the last time I was on and since the last ComCom meeting. So on last Friday, so the 16th, we had our first public feedback session. So we brought together 4 different folks representing 4 different organizations and the benchmarking working group, and kind of shared a little bit of the data and the feedback that we've done in the benchmarking working group survey, and then had the opportunity to ask questions and get that bidirectional feedback from these individuals. So that was fantastic. And then another first at IndexConf yesterday, we had an in-person session where we had representatives from the ComCom Tierney, then the TSC, Michael Dawson, and Mark Hinkle representing the foundation, and team from Walmart Labs sharing their use cases, their pain points, and their experiences around Node. And I think the overall takeaway is, oh my God, please give us more of this.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I'm real excited about how that went down. Now we're we've done the fun parts. Now over the next couple sessions of the user feedback initiative, we'll be landing data. So we're going to go through some of the hard problems of we collected the survey data. How do we land this in a public forum while ensuring the privacy of our end users? And the other big challenge will be we've done these public feedback sessions. How do we capture and disseminate that information in a meaningful way? So that's my update.
Yeah, and on that one, actually, I kind of had some feedback on that I just haven't been able to kind of write down yet. I really loved the public feedback session, especially like how it was pretty deeply technical focused. Sorry, I don't know if the speaker is blowing my voice away. I loved how we captured it. I think one of the ways we could probably better disseminate that in the future is have if this one was for the build working group, I believe. Am I right on that?
The first one on Friday was related to the benchmarking survey.
Benchmarking. Sorry,
Yeah.
too many B's. So the benchmarking working group, that it was, the feedback was related to that. I think it would have been more beneficial if we had more people, like from the benchmarking working group represented there. Because I know Michael was there, that was super helpful. So I think that's just like a to-do that we could do in the future.
We did give an invite in the previous meeting, but I could have done better in terms of reminding people at the last minute, which is what I remembered since nobody else was there.
Yeah.
But I did make sure people were aware, and I believe the previous meeting I went through and said, hey, this is happening. If you guys can come, that'd be great. But I think a ping the day of or before would have helped even more.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could, that might be a point of process where, if we're having kind of a coordination between, an end user feedback, or, end user, and then a working group internally, maybe making an issue in the working group to let them, and connecting them directly to that in the future, because we might not have you in that working group, or one of us three in that working group. So that might be just a good point of process to make sure we're enabling that as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think as a follow-on, I suspect we'll actually set up another meeting focused on that with the benchmarking work group. So
okay, awesome. But yeah, it's been really great having that end user feedback coming through.
Great.
Anything more, Dan, on that strategic initiative?
That's it.
Okay, so
yeah, I can give an update on internationalization. So our proposal met consensus. So all the localization groups seem to be in support. I didn't have any negative feedback on that initiative, and so we're moving forward with that. That's exciting. The interest in the working group is picking up, and membership is growing, so that's cool. On Monday, Zeke and Sam Yamashita and I are going to meet with a Crowdin representative to talk about configuration and things that we need to consider as we move forward with Crowdin. And we have quite a bit of work ahead of us with auditing localization groups to see who is active and who wants to participate, continue to participate, which groups are, have died, which groups are, going to continue on. Just trying to get back in touch with our teams that way, and hopefully prune some of the noise out of the repositories in Node.js. And we've got a meeting coming up, our first big, I guess, internationalization working group meeting. So that's exciting. There's a doodle out. I'm going to close it at the end of the day since it's been out for a week. And we'll have our meeting soon. And other than that, we had a discussion about possibly needing help with translation in our working group meetings for people who are speaking various languages. So I might like to request that, if possible, I'm not sure, but we are able to throw it out on the Node.js Twitter to be able to request specific languages represented there as needed, if we can find a sort of an on-call translator for specific languages. Not quite sure what that's going to look like at the moment, but we might need help with that, with getting translation help if that's possible.
Zibby, do you think that'd be a possibility to kind of do shout outs for that or outreach on that?
Yeah, happy to help.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Zibby. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the idea is that we just want everybody to be on the same page in our working group meetings, and we don't want there to be for anyone to miss anything. So it would just be nice to kind of build an on-call translator base over time. It's mostly just as on an as needed basis. So I don't think for this particular working group meeting, we may not need to throw that out, but for possibly for ones in the future. We may need to. I'm just not sure at the moment, but we may definitely need that in the future. So I appreciate you helping with that, Zippy. That's awesome.
Yeah, and just tag me whenever you kind of need help and support there, and I can figure out whether if it's Twitter, if it's asking members who might have folks that could do translations, that sort of thing. So just tag me when needed so I know when to step in and when to keep out.
Awesome. Right on. Well, thank you.
When you say on call, is it like to, say we have a security release and we want to translate the release announcements, or is it something different from that?
No, it's actually particularly in this case for our meetings to have translators present, like for our working group sessions.
Okay.
So people can be on the same page as everyone's talking. Okay.
So you want to get their input in terms of, like, if you're figuring out translation flow or something like that.
Yeah,
or just to translate or to do translation itself. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It is translation. Just at this point, translation itself. So
Okay.
So if one of our working group members is speaking a certain language and doesn't quite understand another language well enough, then we can have a translator there present for them to be able to understand what the rest of the group is talking about.
Okay, great, understood. Thanks.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's about it. We're trying to sort of scale up and get towards some of the goals and initiatives that were outlined in the proposal now, but there's just a bit of groundwork to do to get there, and a lot of discussion ahead of us.
Sounds good. Any other updates on initiatives?
Actually, I had some updates about the mentorship program, the mentorship initiative.
Okay.
So basically I wanted to announce to the Node.js project, the main Node project, about the mentorship program. So I opened an issue to request comments on the actual issue I'm going to open. So I'm going to do it here. I actually CC'd the technical steering committee and the ComCom. So if you can look at it, everything is there in the gist and in the issue itself.
And so I read over this before Ahmad posted it. He requested that I help out. I did reach out to Greg Wallace to get the Google Forms into a foundation account, set up by the foundation so the data can go through them, so we don't collect any personally identifying data without and surface that inappropriately. But I think this is a pretty good base. And I'm actually really excited for this to kind of continue moving forward. I'm really happy to be seeing continuous momentum on this. So,
yeah, me too. I'm excited. Basically, this is the first thing I've done. I've created the forms for the people to apply for the mentorship program, and I'm waiting for a reply from you to tell me like it's ready and here's the link so I can share it and update the repo itself with the new links.
Yep.
And also there's another issue opened in the mentorship repo. It's about the communication channel used for the mentors and mentees first meeting and possibly all the meetings afterwards. I opened the issue. I had like the possible options: Slack, Google Hangouts, Zoom, and the IRC cloud. And I had the requirements, maybe video calls, chat, and the ability like to invite more than one person to the meeting, basically. So I'm not sure. We don't have, like, we talked about this earlier, and we said that we don't have an official Node.js communication channel. But I need to figure out how to continue this. So I'm not sure who to reach out to and stuff like that.
And so, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say with that, we've had at least one other moderation team just build its own Slack. I don't know if that's, just for expediency of communication, but that is a possibility. We'd have to make sure we enforce code of conduct and have someone willing to, or multiple people willing to moderate it, and have those people be, accepted as moderators by the greater Node community. But that is an option. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I guess my comment on this one is like I'm generally in favor for like picking a standard to when it's like to a larger group, but this seems to me to be a one-on-one. And my first take would be like we say here are a number of free ways you can communicate, but it's up to the mentee and mentor to figure out what works best for them.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Because if I don't want to force somebody to use Zoom to become a mentor if they always use Slack and or vice versa, right? Exactly. But I think listing out the resources like you've got there that say here's some free resources and even the links to like how you get a free account would be very helpful in terms of people saying, well, how am I going to do this? Oh yeah, here's my choices, or
The only concern I would have with that is putting individuals in a one-on-one situation under an official banner and then having someone abuse that inappropriately. And so we would probably that wouldn't take a lot of updating. We would just need to add some language to that about that in the repo. I imagine Rachel and Tracy might have a little bit more context on how we can approach that appropriately. And unfortunately, neither of them are here.
Right. So you're thinking we need like more than just the mentor and mentee in the meeting, or is it that we need to vet the mentors?
No, well, I mean, that's probably a good thing to do, vetting the mentors, but it's more, vetting can also doesn't necessarily prevent things from happening.
Sure, yeah.
So it's more of just having a path to like report something if something happens.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you get into a situation where, and that's, I mean, maybe not tied specifically to the communication channel, but like, hey, if this mentorship relationship goes in a way it shouldn't, here's how you can report it. And
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but if we're going to give them like the options, we need like, for example, we need to give them the option to use Slack, for example. But Node.js doesn't have an official Slack channel, so I'm not sure how exactly that would work out.
So the suggestion I would have there is the Node.js Node Slackers Slack, or I mean, I guess if we're giving them options, they could choose a Slack. Like if they're both in the Webpack Slack, that could work. They don't necessarily need an open channel. It can be a DM on Slack. Similar to how you do a DM on Twitter or IRC or something.
I mean, we might just list the last three: Google Hangouts, Zoom US, and IRC Cloud, because those are fairly straightforward in terms of just signing up and then you can use them, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, in the kickoff meeting, the first meeting they have the mentor and the mentee, one of the mentorship program people or the team, they're like, it's going to be three-way.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure.
I've heard
communication channel. They're going to have to invite someone from the mentorship program to attend the first meeting, just to keep things in line and coordinate things for the first meeting, basically.
So, Ahmed, I've heard a couple times that you mentioned, the mentorship team, and I remember a few meetings ago suggesting to work on building that team. I still have concerns that there's no, we're beginning to gather the folks and invite participation, but we haven't built the team to support this.
Yeah, sure. We didn't still invite anyone. We're still drafting this out, and for sure we're gonna have I have to open an issue inviting people to join the mentorship team, basically. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I would recommend that you set up that and also start a regular cadence of meetings every 2 weeks. to get, to make sure that you have the individuals, we don't have the bottleneck of, all right, we're going to start kicking off those meetings, but there's no one to sort of be there in that kickoff meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. We're going to have to, I will start, I'll open an issue and start gathering people to join. Hopefully we'll find lots of people.
Great. And I'll raise my hand to come participate. Conrad Holman of Operation Code, the COO there, has expressed interest in coming and joining. He's worked a lot in what they're doing in Operation Code to bring mentorship. He has the resources that he's shared with that group and kind of the process that he's gone through in building out mentorship there. So that should get us to critical mass fairly quickly. But I do recommend prioritizing that.
Awesome.
And then I guess if I misinterpreted the discussion you wanted in number 11 was, like, if it's for the initial meeting, I could see it being the group, the group who's going to be the mentorship team choosing whatever works for that group of people, saying, hey, we'll set up the first meeting using X.
Yeah.
If you want to have a standard way of doing it.
This is what I had initially in mind.
Right. Okay.
Like the meetings afterward, they can agree in the initial meeting how to meet the communication channel. But for the first meeting, we can tell them sign into Slack, or let's use the IRC or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, why don't you choose one and see if anybody objects to it? Because I don't know if there's any reason why we, push one versus the other.
Okay, I think Google Hangouts is the easiest to start with because it's friendly and everyone has a Google account almost.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I'd go with Google Hangouts if I had to choose.
Anybody have any issues or concerns with that?
It does require Chrome. It only works on the Chrome as far as I know, though, right?
Meet does. I don't think Hangouts does. I could be wrong, though.
Oh, huh. Okay.
At least at one point it did require Chrome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom does have the advantage of running across platforms quite nicely, but you do have to install their program.
There's also appear.in, which you literally just open the link. That's cross-platform using WebRTC as well.
Can you send the link in the chat? I don't know it.
It'll probably start. Okay, there you go. 1 second here. There you go.
I think there used to be something called Talkie.io. I haven't used it in a while. Also, I think web through WebRTC.
Yeah, Talkie's all right. I've used it a bit in the past. We actually still use it for remote presentations because it's kind of handy for that at our meetup. So it's still functional and would probably be a decent option. I can post the link down here.
Okay. Okay, I think I'll follow up on that on the issue itself. I look at the options and I'll comment on the issue itself.
Okay. Sounds good. So we were going through initiatives. I guess unless there's more discussion on the mentoring initiative, any other initiative updates?
I forgot to mention one thing about internationalization was that the international working group has been dechartered officially. So all work should fall to the internationalization working group now concerning internationalization for Node.js.
Right. I did get, Stephen had asked me about that, but it seems like he's joined in there and is engaged. So that's good.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I have kind of a PSA for working groups if now would be a good time to chime in with it. There was a good comment left by Miles Borens on the opening of the badges repo, saying that he would love to see a license included in the PR. I went to look at some of the other ComCom specific repositories, and many of them do not have an MIT license committed. Anybody who's managing a repo, please consider going in and adding a license, because it might prevent some individuals from participating in contributing in the discussions and content.
Yeah,
Just
that's
a friendly
a
reminder.
very interesting thing. So we should probably codify that in creating a thing under the ComCom of these are the things you need. I know, I believe Dan submitted a PR for that a while ago. It's still there for creating working groups.md. Slightly different because maybe not just focused on working groups. What I'm suggesting and what you kind of encountered, but probably adding some kind of language for that would be helpful. Like these are the baseline things we need. And since it's not code, I don't know how the licensing works on that. Like I mean I don't have an issue with them being MIT. I just don't know how that actually works.
Yeah, do you just declare it in the README? I mean,
well, you'd create a license file,
Right.
but like, is the contents of it? Is the contents of the repo MIT? Because like for badges that makes sense because there's like an asset that's being created. But for something, I'm just trying to find it. Like for I18N for like the working group repo, does it need a license?
I'm not sure whether
a good example might be the I18N working group has processes in place for when translations happen, how they happen, and that might be committed in a working markdown document saying these are our processes, this is how we work. If there's no license on the repo and somebody wants to chime in and suggest a change to the I18N process, they might not be able to do that because of licensing issues and strict requirements from the company they work for.
Okay.
So I think even question on documents in the repo and maybe even participating in conversations in the repo would be frowned upon by some stricter organizations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact rules, but I don't see any harm in having one in every repo. So it's a simple thing to do. We should just do it.
Yeah, we should probably make an issue in the ComCom to audit strategic initiatives and just go through all of our strategic initiatives. And if there's not, like, I can take that on even. Just go in and PR a license file.
Should really be to every repo underneath.
Exactly.
Every ComCom related repo.
Exactly.
And actually, if you're going to audit them, I'm not sure that the other ones are necessarily in line either. So
yeah.
So if you're looking at them and can do them all, like actually, I wonder if we could just have a tool that scans the repos and says
doesn't have a license.
Doesn't have a license. So maybe we should actually even that sounds like the better idea because I can see that we'll miss them as we move forward. If there was something automated that said, hey, there's no license in this repo, we can just ping whoever just created it and say, hey.
Nice. That'd be great.
Yeah. If you don't get to that, I might do it independently, but I might try to create a Probot app for that just to see how that works and play around with it a bit.
So
have some justification. Go ahead.
Tierney, would I just assume that you would do that and do an audit and then kind of PR those in, or should I go ahead and make an issue?
You can go ahead and do it. Don't wait on me or us to take action.
Okay.
You are totally empowered and enabled to go and get that done as soon as possible, especially for internationalization since it has so much momentum. I wouldn't want there to be a barrier to any kind of barrier. Removing anything will be helpful.
Great.
So.
Great. Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. And I do want to say that goes for everyone who's contributing or participating in the ComCom. You are all welcome to do work, and I feel like the TSC when it was formed. I've been talking about this a lot recently, so I just kind of want to take it aside for a sec. When the TSC was formed, it was a lot of people who had been contributing to Node and IOJS. There was kind of a foundation of how the Node project worked already. The ComCom has attracted a lot of people who are new to the Node project and so aren't necessarily exactly familiar with, the ownership. And the ownership that I kind of want to make sure everyone is aware of is that you own it. It's not anyone that's a leader in the project. We are working just in the same way you are. in our, the time we can. And you are all 100% enabled to go do anything and everything you want to and can. And you don't, the majority of the time, you don't need permission. If you're deploying an app that has to authenticate with the org, then that's something you need permission for. But you don't ever need permission to take initiative and get started. And there's a few people who've done a really fantastic job of doing that. And I'm extremely proud of how the ComCom has succeeded in doing that. So I just wanted to make sure to put that out there. And thank you all for taking that initiative.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the initiative front, any other updates? If not, there was another issue which I noticed was added in the comments, but I think we've covered that. I'll just confirm it's mentorship issues number 11.
Yeah, it is. It is
Okay,
covered.
so we already covered that, so that's good. Any other issues or items that we haven't talked about on the agenda that we should?
Do we want to talk? Go back to the orgs thing, or initiatives discussion?
Yeah, that was going to be my next say. Okay, if we don't have anything else, we could loop back to that. I think we have 9 minutes, so that'll maybe give us enough time to get in to figure out if we need a meeting or whatever.
Yeah. So there's 2 that I explicitly listed in that issue. Sorry, let me back up. So we're talking about current strategic initiatives review. That issue has 2 explicitly ones that are relatively 2 explicitly listed ones that are relatively inactive that I knew of. That doesn't mean that there aren't others that are relatively inactive. And then one that I was kind of driving a little bit, but after kind of doing it myself once, I don't know how much how much desire or need there is for it, because we're kind of doing it right now, which is the office hours. So we should probably just try to focus on the 2 that are I identified, and then if anyone does have another initiative that they'd like to share for review, please post it in that issue. And this is just looking at issues or initiatives that are kind of dry and that haven't had a lot of activity. So community events, it is something that was created by, or it was pushed on very, very, very early in the ComCom, like a year and 2 or 3 months ago. So literally at the start, by a single individual who really wanted to take it on. I believe I don't necessarily want to name the individual. That said, they weren't. They haven't really been involved with it at all, and nobody else has stepped up or stepped in to kind of help even define what community events is. And so, it really doesn't have much in there. And I think, unless someone does want to start stepping up and taking that on, we can probably safely move it to a past initiative, just because there's not been activity since I last posted an issue on it on August 7th, 2017.
I definitely agree. If there's no champion and no activity, you might as well reflect reality. And if somebody wants to revive it, it's not hard to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's okay, right? It's okay that these things don't have the support, and I think it's going to help us help those who are joining at the ComCom be more successful. If it's clear that it's not actually happening.
Yeah, and I mean, because events and community events is something people have always been interested in. We've, even I have tried to champion it in other forms in the past, and it's just we've not moved the needle forward really. So that's I think it's good to retire and have the that it's there, and if someone wants to take it on, someone that comes to the ComCom in the future, or someone who's existing now who wants to start doing it, that's fine. But I think that is one specifically because of how much hasn't gone into it, that we can actively retire.
Yeah, you could move it into like a moving for mentors kind of list.
Yeah.
Or sorry, looking for champions. Like if it's something you still think we need to do something on.
Yeah.
That would be one way just to make it visible.
Yeah, and that is there. We do have that need champion for initiatives list. So I think we can just honestly, I can commit that, or I can submit that PR probably after we're done here. So does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add to that? Okay. So I would also like to talk about the evangelism working group. That is something that I started. I helped kick off a long time ago during IOJS. It got moved into Node.js. It had quite a bit of activity around the time of Node.js, IOJS. And then as I kind of became less active, there was less guidance around it and less engagement. There are still a few people who I know personally who are, members of it, but there's not much activity in there. There's quite a set of issues that are very good things for us to go and for anyone to go and kind of help out with, but it's not really an extremely active group. The last issue was September 11th, 2017.
What's like an example of the things that can still be done?
So things that can still be done, there's a discussion on is the $100 for Node Foundation individual membership a barrier to participation, which is something we've been discussing for quite a while. There's Stack Overflow open source ads, which is a cool thing that I think I'd love to see happen. Updating the Node.js Wikipedia page, which is something I opened and is desperately needed, but I haven't had time to personally go do, and I would love to go do it with people. I might be able to go do it in a live stream or something now, but yeah, it's really extremely out of date. So that's something desperately needed.
I was just kind of asking because those, at least those I could all see just moving those into the ComCom repo.
Yeah.
For now as a home and.
Yeah, and then be able to kind of discuss where they need to go if they need to go somewhere else.
Right, and then if there's somebody who wants to focus in on that one specific sort of area, again, you can sort of move things out.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a pretty decent set of resources in there, and honestly, a lot of what evangelism was trying to do is what ComCom does. So and ComCom is much more empowered than evangelism ever was, and has gone a lot further. And that's not, a slight on ComCom, or sorry, not a slight on evangelism. Evangelism did a lot of great work. But I think we can, this is the one where we would have to propose it to the ComCom since they're an individually, they're a chartered working group, so they would have to decide themselves to decharter.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that would be too big of a barrier. Looking at the list of people, I don't think anyone there would object.
And it's a fairly regular thing. There's been quite a few repos on the TSC side that have been dechartered and merged into the groups and stuff. So there's nothing out of the ordinary about doing that kind of thing either.
Yep. And if people are interested again, it can always be rechartered. And I think one of the reasons it's kind of stagnated is there is a lot of stale content in there. There's a lot of stale language that hasn't gotten the love it should have. Over the last 3 years. That said, there are also some documents that I still consistently refer to because they're relevant to things we're doing now, like the social media style guide that I initially wrote that we are using as a baseline for the website redesign and the language style guide there. The Meetup starter kit, which is something that has consistently been helpful. And then, core issues and local initiatives, which are basically things that could be useful in the ComCom. So I think a good path would be to request that it be dechartered and then begin a transfer process of the relevant issues and even the content in that repo. So the social media style guide is into an archive in ComCom, or even just leave it in evangelism and link it somehow.
Yeah, I might. I think for sort of discoverability and not having stale content, if you moved, I mean, it depends how much stuff there is, but if it's a reasonable amount of stuff to move over and then archiving that repo, might avoid people going there and, reading old stuff and it looking like nothing's happening.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, there's only really a few different, there's like two MD files and then 2 folders. That are next, like on the same level as that. So it shouldn't be, it's not a massive undertaking.
No.
Okay. So I will take that on. I probably won't be able to get to it this week or next, or at least not soon or early next week. But I will try to take that on as well.
Okay, so we're at the top of the hour. So in terms of this issue, is there more things for discussion so that it should stay on the CC agenda, or should we look at taking it off?
I think there are a couple of other items to go through, in particular, education.
Yep.
Having an owner and what was it that? Yeah, education, most importantly.
Yeah, and I think Tracy is still technically the owner of that. That said, that was part of her role at the foundation, and so checking in with her would probably be good to see if it's something she's still interested and able in continuing to help. I'm very passionate about that, but I think that we would need to give more love to it if it's to remain active.
Okay, so I think since we're at the top of the hour, we should leave this on.
Yep.
Sounds like we leave it on the agenda. We can talk about it again next time.
Yep.
So just looking at usually we have a time for some questions on the YouTube channel. So
yeah, let me go look real quick. Stream on YouTube. Let's see. No video for this meeting.
Yeah, the only question is, well, I know video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's something we could discuss. We could do video if we wanted to, but that's maybe a different discussion.
I know I particularly enjoy seeing everybody.
Yeah, it
feels like a community that way.
Yeah, I do too.
I have to figure out how to make Zoom permissions work. Basically, it's video conferencing is hard.
I think we just need to turn it on.
So if I turn it on, it literally starts everyone as with their camera on, which is like I know people don't ever expect. And so there you go.
Sorry, I just shouldn't have done that. I said
No
start
worries.
video and it actually turned on the video. I thought it would turn it on for me.
Nope. Yeah, it does. Well, it turned on for you.
It did turn it only for you.
Oh, there we
Okay.
go. Okay.
Right. So I think everybody who, once we join, everybody who's okay with video can actually turn it on.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe next time it's just a matter of saying, hey, okay, if you want to turn your video on, go ahead.
Okay. Can someone else turn their video on? Like, does it work
No,
for you?
I don't have
seem to turn it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to turn mine on.
Okay.
It's
So
RBAC type
that's
stuff.
Yes, you
That's
do.
the issue. Yeah.
Just the instances of Node.js Foundation.
Can I try? I'm going to try like.
You can promote people to co-host, which makes them able to do
Okay.
it, like you and I have. But that's another thing we could do. Permission, like let you do it. I can start doing that. It's not
Yeah, maybe that's just the way to go is to promote, make co-hosts. So, yes, okay. So, Joe Seppi, you should be able to turn it on now if you want to.
putting them on the spot.
Yeah, okay. So, but yeah, okay. I think that we at least understand now how we could do it. So,
Nice.
Okay.
I still
okay.
can't.
That was the only question. If there's no other questions, then I think we're good for today, and see everybody next time.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Gate 43 if you want to find me.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.